Alright guys, welcome back to another Unreal Engine 5 tutorial, and today we are talking all about Blueprint. Blueprint is the visual scripting language of Unreal Engine 5 and allows you to essentially implement gameplay logic into your Unreal Engine 5 games so that you don't always have to decompile your game down into C++. It is extremely versatile, and there have been many examples of games. Although I don't recommend this, you should always somewhat have a mix of C++ and Blueprint, but there are a lot of games out there that can be built solely with Blueprint. So definitely don't underestimate it. I think it's a lot easier to get started with than C++, and on top of that, Blueprint will teach you the fundamentals of C++ so that when you're ready to make that leap, you have a lot better understanding of what's going on. Alright, so let's go ahead and get started with our introduction to Blueprint. So before we introduce Blueprint, I just want to make sure I refresh on a couple of points here. In my second tutorial video of Unreal Engine 5, I talked about the idea of actors and components. And essentially, the thing I was talking about is actors are pretty much anything that can be placed inside your level. It's essentially any object that has a transform, where a transform is a three-dimensional matrix that determines the position, size, and orientation/rotation of any actor. So here's an actor, for example. Here's a cube. It's an actor because it has this transform on it. Crazy, right? I could move this cube and change its size and all of that various stuff, right? However, I can also change the way it behaves under certain circumstances. So let's see here. I'm going to take this exact same thing over here. Not exactly the same, but on this guy right here, I'm going to change this specific actor to not simulate physics. And then this specific actor here, I'm going to change it so it simulates physics and enable gravity is turned off. Right, so let's go ahead and look at the behaviors now. Right, so I'm going to go ahead and click play. And now when I jump on this block right here, notice nothing happens, it's pretty much stuck in place. But if I jump on this block here, it moves. Why? Because I turned on simulate physics, but gravity is not implementing a force on this actor, so it's floating in the air. Remember, gravity is the force that makes matter attracted to one another, so that's why this would generally be pulled towards a larger body of mass, this ground, or down, right? But obviously it's turned off, so that's not happening. So you can clearly see here that these actors behave differently based upon their properties, and then also they can also change based upon the components as well. We'll talk more about that later. But a blueprint is essentially a custom actor. Well, not necessarily. Blueprint is a scripting language, but you can use Blueprint to create custom actors that behave the way you want them to. So that's essentially getting back into the idea of actors and components and how you can change the behavior of an actor based upon specific components. All right, let's go ahead and jump into Blueprint now. So today, we're just going to be using the third-person character. If you aren't aware, this is the third-person game template. I'm just using this in Unreal Engine 5.1 is the version of Unreal for this tutorial. And I'm just going to jump in and show just some of the basics here. So to get to the third-person character, you're just going to open up your content drawer by holding Control and clicking space, or by clicking content drawer. Then you're going to go here. You can click the all folder, then go to content, third-person, blueprints, and this is the character. If you can't find it that way, then you can type in character here, and it will be right here, BP third-person character. Notice that it is general convention that whenever you create a blueprint, which we'll look at probably next video, but this is a blueprint right here. Whenever you create a blueprint, you always want to prefix the name with BP. That stands for blueprint, right? All right, so here is our BP third-person character. I'm going to go ahead and open this up. And lo and behold, this pops up. Now, if it popped up like this, very easy to dock it. All you do is just drag this and drag it here, and now it's docked. And here it is. Here is an example of the character movement for the character, right? So nothing too crazy, nothing too wild out there, just showing you kind of what Blueprint looks like. Now, Blueprint, again, is the visual scripting language. And essentially all of these nodes, as they're called, these are all nodes, run based off of certain triggers. So for example, if I touch or overlap a collision box, that's an event, right? When the player clicks the W key, that's an event. When the game begins, that's an event. So let's go ahead and look at the two most important or most common events that we will be using in Blueprint. That is the event begins play, right here, and then the event tick, which is this one. Okay, these are the two most common nodes, or most common triggers, I should say, that are used in Blueprint. So event begin play, pretty straightforward. It's when you start playing the game or the level, right? Excuse me, I have to be very specific. When you start playing the level, not the game. Okay? Event tick is like every frame. So essentially, whenever you play a game, I'm just going to come out of here. There's a game loop that is the game engine is running behind your game that goes through a whole series of events. And then after it's collected all the data and has done all the functions and everything it has to do, it then renders a frame to your screen. And essentially, based on how fast your computer can do this, you get a certain amount of frames per second, FPS, right? Tick is what is called every single frame. Generally, if you're playing on a console, that's like 60 frames per second. And then, of course, depending on how good your computer is, that FPS can go even higher. So tick is called every single frame. So just to illustrate this, I'll go ahead and print something. Now, in order to use the logic here off of the trigger, you have this. This is called an execution pin. Essentially, whatever you want to happen on this event is tied to this execution pin, just like that. So let's go ahead and look at this one. I'm going to go ahead and drag an execution pin here and type in print string. And as you notice, Unreal automatically connected this print string execution pin to this one. So I don't have to worry about that. But I'm going to go ahead and print begin play. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and drag this up. And notice here I can also have some nice little development only options, such as it printing to the screen and to my output log here as well. I can also change the duration here and the color I want the text to be. We'll make it red for today, just to show you. Okay, so some nice little custom options here, but print string is generally used for debugging purposes, and I use it a lot for teaching purposes. So as you'll see here, when we go ahead and start playing the game, you will see begin play appear in the top left-hand corner of the screen, and I'm going to put this at 5. All right, now, whenever you are creating blueprints or refactoring blueprints, you need to make sure the blueprints work before you try and play. Because if you try and play and a blueprint's not working, you could crash your game engine, and that would be bad because obviously then you couldn't save your data and save your project stuff, and that'd be bad. So you always need to compile your blueprint before you start leaving the blueprint. Compile essentially rebuilds the entire blueprint code and makes sure that it works. So I click compile here, I get the green check mark, means good to go. Then I click this save button here, which then saves this asset with the new change. Now I'm going to go ahead and toggle back here, and when I click play, you can see begin play pops up right here in the left upper hand corner. So as you can see, begin play only was called once at the start of playing the game. Let's go ahead and now change this to tick, and I'm going to go ahead and take this. To disconnect a pin, you hold Alt and click, just like so. Disconnect these pins here, and I'm going to connect this now to this pin. So let's go ahead and see the difference between the trigger event begins play and event tick. Again, whenever you're done changing a blueprint, you always click compile, save. All right, now I click play, and watch what happens in the left hand corner here. This is now going to be called every single frame, as you can see. So that is the big difference between these two, and later we'll talk about a bunch of other stuff that you can do as well, and other events that are called. But these are the two most common. All right, so I think that's just a nice little introduction into Blueprint. Next, we are going to talk about data types / variable types. If you had any questions on any of the concepts in this video, please let me know in the comments below, and I will see you all in the next one.